Hey guys, sorry this had to be a two-parter, but I knew it was going to be a long lesson. So I decided to put all the measures of center in the first part. Hopefully you kind of paused and went and practiced that, made sure you remembered all of that stuff. Again, you should have seen it before. And now we're going to do measures of variability. These, some of them, like range, you probably know immediately without me saying anything. Some of the other ones, like interquartile range, you've probably seen, but it's not tip of the brain knowledge. So make sure you watch this through to its completion so that you can be successful on your mastery check. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some notes. So measures of spread and variability are another way that we describe data sets. I typically say measures of variability. That's probably what you heard in middle school. Mr. Thomaswick tends to say measures of spread, and that shows up more in high school. They mean the same thing, though. I'm not sure why we've got two different words, but basically it's a way of describing how far the pieces of data are from that center. So we just talked about how to find the center, which gives us what's typical. Now we're going to look at, okay, this is your mean is the most typical, or your median is the middle, but are all the data really clumped together there, or are they really spread out and unpredictable? So the measure of spread that we're going to discuss first, and that you're probably the most familiar with, is the range. Simply, all you've got to do is subtract the smallest number from the biggest number. That's really it. It helps to put them in order first, because then you're less likely to get messed up. And honestly, most of the time you're going to be doing more than one calculation on a set of data, and you're probably going to need them in order anyways to find the median or something like that. So first thing we're going to do then is put this in order. My smallest number is 7, and then 8, and then 12. I know this is really boring to watch me do. I'm trying to be fast. 19 and 21 and 32. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of data. So I've got it all there. All I've got to do to find the range is say 32 minus 7. And 32 minus 7 is 25. So my range is 25. Oh, and I keep trying to move my paper there. My range is 25, and I'm done. Now, the second measure of variability, hopefully you don't have any questions about that one, but be sure to write it down in the margins if you do. The second measure of variability is a bit more complicated. It is called the interquartile range. Sorry we didn't give you enough space to write that there. We typically refer to it, though, as the IQR, because we're lazy. Before you can find the interquartile range, there's a couple of other things you need to do. You first got to find the first, second, and third quartiles. I'm going to talk to you about what those are, and I gave you an example, and we're just going to step through it because there's kind of a lot of steps, but I think you'll find that you remember these. You use the interquartile range a lot when you're dealing with box and whisker plots, which is something we're going to talk about later in the unit. So, step one, as always, put the values in order from least to greatest. So my smallest is 11, and then 12, and then 14, not 18, nope, I just saw 17. 17, 18, 19, 2 21s, look at there's a mode, and 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? Now the next thing you're going to do is find the median. Median is also known as the second quartile, or Q2. Remember, if you've got two numbers in the middle, then you got to add them up and divide. But for this one, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So my middle number then is 18. So that's going to be my Q2. For the first quartile, what you're going to do is find the median of the bottom half of the data. So what I typically do is I underline this bottom half. Do not include your median in that bottom half. Your median is your Q2, and it's already been spoken for. This bottom half here though, I'm going to find the median of it, which is going to be right here between this 12 and 14. So 12 plus 14 then is 26, and 26 divided by 2 is 13. So my Q1 is going to be 13. So we're going to write that right there. Now, my Q3, we're going to use the same basic steps, except now we're looking at the upper half of the data, and I'm going to take the median of the upper half of the data. Again, do not include the median in that. That is your Q2, and you're not using that. Your Q1, remember, was 13. And now I'm going to look at this upper half of data. I've got 4 data values, so the middle is going to be right here between this 21 and 21. Obviously, the middle of 21 and 21 is 21, but just to check, you're going to add and then divide by 2. So you're going to get 42 divided by 2, which is 21. So my Q3 then is 21. Now, to find the interquartile range, all you have to do is take Q3 minus Q1. So 21 minus 13, and I get 8. So it has an interquartile range of 8. Okay, so we have just one more thing that we can do with measures of spread, and that is check for outliers. So I talked a little bit earlier about what outliers are. Those are your extreme points that are way, way higher or way, way lower than the rest of the data. So the interquartile range gives us an idea of where that middle chunk of the data, where the middle 50% of the data is. So if a value is much larger than that middle 50% or much lower than that middle 50%, then we classify it as an outlier. I'm going to show you the steps for determining whether something is an outlier or not right here. The first thing we've got to do is find the interquartile range. I went ahead and put these in order because I didn't think you wanted to watch me do that again. And then remember, to find the interquartile range, we first need to find the middle of our data set. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I've got 2 86s here in the middle. So the middle of that then is 86. Now here's something that I'm glad came up. In the previous example, I made a big deal about don't count the median as part of your bottom half or your upper half. But what happens when your median is in between two of your data sets? In that case, this 86 does get counted as the bottom half, and this one does get counted as the upper half, because your Q2 is a whole separate little 86 here that we found by averaging these. All right, so now I can look for my Q1, which is going to be the median of this lower half. So that is going to be right here between 72 and 81. So I'm going to say 72 plus 81 divided by 2. Well, 72 plus 81 is going to be 153. And 153 divided by 2 is gonna be 76.5, I think. Let me just check because I don't want to get it wrong, because then y'all be making fun of me in class and it'll hurt my feelings. I'll cry. Yes, it's 76.5. Okay, so Q1 is 76.5. Over here, I'm going to say 93 plus 97 and divide that by 2. So that's 190. And 190 divided by 2 is going to be 95. Okay, so that means my interquartile range, or my IQR, is 95 minus 76 and 5/10. So my IQR then is going to be, oh no, I lost my calculator. 95 minus 76.5 is equal to 18.5. That's my IQR. Okay, so there's step 1. Now, step 2, we are going to take that interquartile range and we are going to multiply it by 1.5. Why 1.5? I don't know. That's just the rule. So 18.5 times 1.5 is 27 and 75 hundredths. So 18.5 times 1.5 is equal to 27. Bad handwriting. That is partially my fault and partially slow computers. I apologize. Okay, 27.75. All right, that's step 2. Step 3 is we're going to take that value that we got from multiplying the IQR by 1.5 and we are going to subtract it from Q1 and then we're going to add it to Q3. So that's step 3 and step 4. So step 3 is Q1, which was 76.5, minus 27 3/4. Well, let's pull up the calculators again. 76.5 minus 27.75 is equal to 48.75. And then step 4 is I'm going to take my Q3, which remember was 95, and I am going to add that 27 75/100 to it. Okay, and when I do that, I get 95 plus 27.75 is equal to 122 75/100. And what these two numbers do is they form sort of a fence. Anything that falls outside of this fence, below 48.75 or above 122.75, is going to be considered an outlier. So my last step is to go back and inspect that original data set and see if anything qualifies. So my lower fence was that 48. Well, 40 is lower than that. That is going to be considered an outlier in this data set. My upper fence was 122. My highest value is 100, so there is no upper outlier, but I would conclude from this work that 40 is an outlier. All right, so let's check another data set. I went ahead and put this in order, and I brought it up here in this little extra space so that we can follow along with the steps a little bit better. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my interquartile range. Again, I have 9 data points, so that means I'm going to have 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my median is 15. So then to find Q1, I'm going to look at the lower half of this data, which is going to be 7, in between 7 and 12. So 7 plus 12 is equal to 19, and 19 divided by 2 is going to be 9.5. Okay, over here, the middle is going to be 18 plus 19, which is going to be 37 divided by 2, which is 18.5. And you can jump straight to that conclusion if you've started to pick up on some patterns on medians. I'm looking for halfway between 18 and 19, so that's going to be 18.5. So this is my Q1, and this is my Q3. All right, so now I'm going to subtract that to find my actual IQR. IQR is going to be 18.5 minus 9.5, which is just 9. Okay? Now, step 2, multiply. So step 2, I'm going to multiply my IQR times 1.5. And that is going to be 13.5, or 13.5, or 13 5/10, however you want to say that. Step 3, I'm going to subtract this. I'm creating my fences, okay? So I am going to take this Q1 and I'm going to subtract 13.5 from it. Or, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry. 9.5 then, minus 13.5. Well, that's going to give me a negative value, and I know that I don't have any negative values in this data set, so if I wasn't trying to teach right now, I probably wouldn't even finish this, but since I am, I'm going to say, okay, -4. I clearly do not have any lower outliers though, because I don't have any data values that are not positive. For step 4, I am going to add this value I got in step 2 to my third quartile. Well, my third quartile is 18.5, so I'm going to add 13.5 to that, and I get 32. Well, my highest number here is 25, so that means I have no upper outlier either. So I don't have any outliers in this example. And that's it. So we do have one more measure of variability to discuss with you, but it kind of takes a lot of work and it's something that's a little bit more complicated. So we're going to give it its own lesson, and you guys can go ahead and start practicing and completing your practice and checking it in the book to make sure you're good to prepare for your mastery check. See you later.